What's good YouTube, it's your boy ToyDualer here, and welcome to part 2 of my Meso making guide. So today I'm going to be teaching you the basics of merching, what merching is, and why merching is useful for you in your quest to make billions and billions of Mesos. So merching in Maplestory is basically the process of buying an equip or item, usually underpriced, and then selling it for a higher price so you make a profit off of selling the item. Merching, in my opinion, is basically 60% luck and 40% knowing the prices of items, so you need to be a little lucky and know what you're doing to be a good merchant. Merching requires a lot of time and a lot of effort, so there's no really get rich quick with merching. You have to know what you're doing, and with this video, I'm going to teach you how to know what you're doing. I'm going to teach you the basics. I'm not going to give you what to merch because it changes so much that I can't really give you a little guide on what to buy and what to merch, but I'm going to give you the basics so you'll be able to do this on your own, and by the time you finish this video, you will know how to merch. Alright, so we're starting off with the extreme basics here. Now, I assume you have at least 100 million Mesos, and if you don't already, then just watch my previous Meso making guide and that'll teach you how to get there pretty easily. Alright, so now that you have money to work with, it's time to start learning prices. Now, this is always something that deters people from merching, because they don't know prices for anything. You can't merch if you don't know how much to sell something for or how much to buy stuff for, and a lot of people think that learning prices is basically impossible and they'll never be able to do it. But that is completely untrue. Learning prices is really simple nowadays due to two nice tools that we have. Now, the first one is just checking the free market daily. Now, what I like to do when I learn prices is I just go to every single free market shop in the whole free market, all 22, although most of the time it's not filled up that much, but I like to check all the free market shops and see what people are selling and how much they're selling for. For example, let's say I see a whole bunch of people selling gloves for attack scrolls, and a lot of them want like maybe 22 million Mesos for them. Now, nobody's buying them for 22 million Mesos, but people are selling them for 20 million Mesos and people are buying them that way. That's something to take note of, because let's say you find somebody selling a gloves for attack scroll for 10 million Mesos. Now, because you were searching the free market, you know that you could easily sell it for 20 million Mesos, and that's a merch right there. Now, once again, I'm not saying that's how much gloves for attack scrolls sell for. That's just a random example I just made up, so don't take that. The best way to learn prices, like I just said, is checking yourself. Now, another good way to learn prices for items in Maplestory is by checking the website maple.fm. Basically, by checking maple.fm, you could search for a specific item and learn how much that item sells for in the free market. This is more useful once you know that you're looking for a specific item, but it's a great resource and you're going to be using it a lot when you merch. Alright, so now that you know prices, it's time to get to the fun stuff. But before we start, I just want to tell you one really big rule that I like to follow when I merch. I never invest more than half the amount of money that I have at the time into merching. Even if you know prices perfectly and you're the perfect merchant, things can always go wrong. Prices can change in a moment's notice, and although that is very unlikely, it can happen, and you don't want to be a victim of that. So don't ever invest more than half the amount of money that you have in merching at a single time. And one more rule that I generally like to follow when I merch, especially at lower amounts of money, is that 90% of the time I'd rather buy and merch used items like scrolls or etc. items like superior item crystals or cubic blades, and that's for the sole reason that those items generally are much easier to merch and resell because it's a specific item rather than an equip, which can be scrolled and potentialed, and those can really change the price of the item and make it much harder to sell. So merching, especially when you're at low amounts of money, it's just much safer to merch use items and etc. items. Alright, so now that you know prices, you're going to want to find people selling items cheap that you could easily merch. You have three major ways of finding cheap items. Number one, people just spamming in the free market. Generally, people spamming in the free market entrance will sell items a little cheaper than the market price in the free market shop, just because they want to get rid of the item faster. So if you see somebody selling something that you know you could easily resell, then just buy it right there and you'll make a quick profit. Number two, by scanning the free market just like earlier. Now that you know prices, you'll be able to notice those really good deals pretty fast, and you'll be able to buy items that you'll be able to merch. And number three is by checking maple.fm. Once you know prices for specific items, you'll be able to look them up, and if you see any cheap deals, you'll know to buy them right away. And now that you have all these great items that you want to merch, it's time to sell them back. Now, there are two ways to sell them back. Number one is by spamming in the free market. Spamming in the free market is definitely not my preferred way of merching. It takes a lot of time trying to sell stuff when you spam in the free market, and a lot of people are going to try to undercut you because they're going to be trying to merch themselves. I mean, if this is the only way that you're able to sell items, then go for it, but it's going to be harder than the second method. Now, the second method, and the one that I definitely recommend over spamming in the free market, is by going to the cash shop and buying a shop permit. Now, as I always say to the people that have an X and don't know what to do with it, this is the best purchase you can ever make. Buying a shop permit is really cheap. It only costs 1.8k an X, which is $1.80, and you will, if you merch, you will guaranteed make your money back within those 90 days for sure. When you have a shop, you could just go into the free market, set up your shop, and have your items there to sell while you go out and do other things. And when you come back, if you're lucky, your items will have sold. It's much more efficient than just spamming in the free market, hoping somebody trades you and you sitting at the computer bored out of your mind trying to merch. And it also lets you avoid those people that try to undercut you and buy your items cheaper. Now, the only problem with this is, yes, it does cost an X. So if you really can't afford the $1.80 to buy a shop, then I guess you could do surveys. I've never tried doing the surveys on the Nexon website, so I can't say how good they are, but from what I heard, it takes some time to get 1.8k, but you'll be able to do it eventually. So if you really can't buy a $1.80's worth of an X, then just go do some surveys and get this, because this is much better than spamming in the free market. Alright, so that's how you merch in Maplestory. I hope you guys enjoyed this guide, and if you did, give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more awesome Maplestory videos like this. With merching, there's really no limit on how much money that you can make, and all you have to do is invest a little time into merching. Alright, so I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I hope it helps. Thanks for watching, and see you guys next time. Bye-bye.